Made in Abyss tells a story of an orphaned girl named Riko, delving into the first layer of the abyss to search for relics with her friend, a boy named Nat, spotting a beastly serpent called a crimson splitjaw nearby. Riko uses her red whistle to draw its attention to save Nat from being eaten. Despite her getting cornered by the crimson splitjaw to almost becoming devoured, the crimson splitjaw is suddenly chased off by a powerful energy blast. Riko traces the source of the energy blast back to a robot boy rendered unconscious. Riko and Nat carry the robot boy back to their home at Belchero Orphanage and stash him away in a shed. Belchero Orphanage is an orphanage in Orth, run by a woman named Belchero. It comes complete with a school, where the children there learn to be delvers or cave raiders, adventurers who dive deep into the abyss to explore it to unveil its secrets. In the town at the edge of the abyss, Orth, delvers, or cave raiders are highly regarded as heroes. Many children aspire to become one of them in the future, including Riko, who wants to be like her mother, a legendary cave raider named Liza the Annihilator, who disappeared into the abyss 10 years ago. Riko's mother is one of the few people considered the greatest cave raiders of all, so Riko is determined to be like her or surpass her mother. She even begged her instructor, a man named Jiruo, to allow her to delve deeper into the abyss. But Jiruo is still worried about Riko's safety, who is still a cave raider in training, to delve deeper than the first layer. He suggests to her to train harder to improve her skills. At night, with the help of her friends, Riko can revive the robot boy, who seems to be an amnesiac. Even he didn't remember if he was a robot. Because he didn't remember anything, Riko named the robot boy Reg, the same name as the dog she used to have. She then takes him outside during sunrise to show him the large city of Orth, which sits atop the abyss and tells him about Orth and the abyss. Though the abyss is riddled with countless dangers and hazards, one of the greatest challenges facing the cave raider is the ascent from it. This is due to the curse of the abyss phenomenon. The term refers to a series of symptoms that manifest upon ascending while inside the abyss, with its more scientific name being the strains of ascension. The effects of the curse manifest after ascending around 10 meters within the abyss, and there is no way to avoid it through conventional means. But Reg is completely immune to the curse of the abyss, so Riko and her friends think Reg has an artificial body. Riko presumes that Reg is from the bottom of the abyss. She then studies and notes Reg's body, which is extremely durable. Not only that, Reg's senses of smell and hearing are stronger than that of a human. Moreover, Reg's arms can extend up to 40 meters each, so he is referred to as the treasure of the deep. Fearing that Reg might be taken away and dismantled if he was ever found out, Riko and friends disguise him as a regular orphan and discreetly arrange his enrollment with Jiruo in the orphanage, where he begins his rank training as a bell. 2 months later, Riko tells Reg that a legendary cave raider, a man named Habalg, returns from his expedition in the second layer of the abyss. Riko immediately invites Reg to come to the welcoming ceremony. Habalg comes back with a white whistle owned by Riko's mother, Liza, and a sealed document. White Whistle is a legend. They are considered the greatest cave raiders because their achievements have changed the world, and their discoveries astonished all, turning them into spectacular historical figures. When a festival is celebrated for the return of Liza's White Whistle, Jiruo tells Riko that she was born in the abyss. Her mother, Liza, used a rare relic called the curse-repelling vessel to return Riko safely to the surface before searching for the legendary relic called the Unheard Bell. But Riko's father, Torka, perished during an unknown incident with other cave raiders. Riko is then given Liza's White Whistle and is allowed to view the sealed document, which reveals a drawing of Reg and a note from Liza saying that she is waiting at the bottom of the abyss. After reading the letter from her mother, Riko decides to descend into the abyss to find Liza. However, Nat openly opposes this idea, believing that Riko will never return to the surface by doing so. Reg then volunteers to accompany Riko and would protect her in the abyss. Since Riko still insists on descending into the abyss, one of her friends, a boy named Shiggy, explains each layer through a depth chart. The first layer is the most shallow section of the abyss, right below the town of Orth. The environment is consistent and sunny, full of hollows in the grassy rock faces and petrified trees. The wildlife consists of fantastical and mostly harmless animals. But Riko's mother is a White Whistle. She may be in the 6th layer, the most dangerous layer to humans. A human who tries to ascend the 6th layer either succumb to death or be deformed beyond recognition or called the capital of the unreturned. Long story short, while Riko and Reg plan to sneak out of the orphanage before daybreak, Shiggy gives them a map of the abyss, containing all 6 known layers. Riko is angered when Nat points out that Liza most likely died a long time ago, since it would be impossible for even a White Whistle to survive in the abyss for 10 years. After seemingly bluffing a suspicious Jiruo, Reg and Riko are met by Nat, who regrets previously saying such hurtful things. Nat agrees to guide them to the wharf quarter, a secret entry point into the abyss. After saying their farewells, Riko and Reg depart for their journey. They manage to descend deep down into the first layer, the edge of the abyss. As they escape the territory of a silkfing, a large insect, they are intercepted by Habolg. He was requested by Nat and Shiggy to escort Riko and Reg to the seeker camp in the second layer. However, Riko kindly declined the offer since Riko and Reg wanted to reach the seeker camp independently. Habolg looks surprised after hearing that. He then informs them that the guardian of the seeker camp is Ozan, a white whistle who helped Liza transport the infant Riko to the surface, though warning them to be wary of Ozan before saying his farewells. Riko and Reg then reach the second layer, the Forest of Temptation. As they proceed through the Forest of Temptation, Riko and Reg encounter a large carnivorous bird called a corpse weeper, which can mimic the cries of help from its prey. They tried to escape, but Riko was captured by another corpse weeper and flown to its nest. Reg desperately activates an incendiary cannon within his hand that destroys the corpse weeper and a large swath of the surrounding landscape. After being saved, Riko is greatly impressed with Reg's incendiary cannon and dubs it the incinerator. However, Reg passes out from the strain of using the weapon. After he wakes up, Riko reveals that she lost her notebook, which contains all her writings during her time in the abyss. After sharing some delicious meat from the corpse weeper left behind, Riko and Reg proceed to the inverted forest, found in the lowest area in the Forest of Temptation. They then approach the seeker camp, originally built as a stopover point for cave raiders. When Reg tries to use his extendable arms to gain entry, a woman seizes hold of Reg's extendable arms instead. The woman turned out to be Ozan, a legendary white whistle cave raider who has made outstanding discoveries of the abyss and retrieved numerous artifacts of incredible value. Ozan instructs her apprentice, a boy named Marlk, who wears a blue maid dress, to lower the camp's gondola down so that the two can enter the camp. Recognizing Riko immediately, Ozan leads them inside, seating the pair down in a sitting area of the seeker camp. Riko gives Ozan her mother's white whistle so that she can examine it. Ozan is surprised to see the whistle, as she thought that she would never see the whistle ever again. Right after, Riko thanks her for lending her help in carrying Riko back to the surface after her birth. After that, at Ozan's instructions, Marlk gives the two of them blue whistles because Ozan notes that it would be troublesome to explain the presence of two red whistle cave raiders in the seeker camp. So for the time being, they will wear blue whistles. In exchange for the blue whistles, Ozan takes Liza's white whistle as collateral, and she tells them that they can exchange the blue whistles for the white whistle when they are about to leave. Riko and Reg quickly befriend Marlk, who became a blue whistle at a young age due to being a direct apprentice of Ozan. That night, Riko encounters a strange creature while looking for the bathroom, having to flee back to her bedroom. The following day, Ozan takes Riko and Reg to her private chamber. Along the way, Ozan says that Liza is dead since she recovered the white whistle and the letter from a grave in the fourth layer. She claims that the note was not handwritten by Liza. Riko is very shocked to hear the truth about her mother, but she didn't immediately believe that her mother was dead and would confirm it with her own eyes. Once inside the chamber, Riko sees the box that turned out to be the curse-repelling vessel. Ozan reveals that the curse-repelling vessel has the power to temporarily revive the dead, which Riko died from birth and was revived by the relic. The strange creature that Riko had seen the night before had been created by Ozan when she had been reminded of the box's power and tried placing some meat she had for a meal into the box. The monster that Ozan had placed inside there earlier was just a lump of meat, returning to life before dying a few hours later. Ozan reveals an observation she had made between Riko and the monster she created. Both were trying to reach the bottom of the abyss. Ozan continues to agonize Riko by assuming she probably will stop moving at some point, just like the meat. Hearing that, Reg tells Ozan that she has gone too far. An angry Reg begins attacking Ozan, but she remains unmoved and soon renders him unconscious from her superhuman strength. When Reg is unconscious, Marlk panicked and went to get the subterranean bandits, a squad of cave raiders led by Ozan, to stop the fight. Afterward, Ozan admits that she was testing Riko and Reg to surmise if they could survive in the abyss, concluding they need training. She reveals that the grave was, in fact, empty, implying that Liza may be still alive. Following Reg's recovery, Ozan tasks Riko and Reg to survive on the outer edge of the inverted forest for 10 days. Because it would leave Riko and Reg defenseless, Ozan suggests that Reg use the incinerator as a last resort since he would faint within minutes and remain unconscious for 2 hours, which would endanger Riko's life. Ozan keeps track of their development during their survival training of her scouts. After 10 days, Riko and Reg successfully complete their survival training and return to the Seeker camp. Ozan then instructs them to avoid the other white whistles currently exploring the 5th layer, especially a man named Bondrwood, who is considered the most dangerous. She gives Riko a relic called the Blaze Reap, Liza's abnormally large pickaxe that was salvaged from the 4th layer, which can be sparingly used before breaking as an alternative to the incinerator. Later on, Marulk and the subterranean bandits bid farewell to Riko and Reg. When Ozan sees them leaving, she reminisces about the promise she made to Liza long ago, which was to help Riko find her mother. Riko and Reg then set off towards the 3rd layer, the Great Fault. Riko and Reg climb down the Great Fault, using countless interlocking caverns to avoid the inhibiting Matakajaks, large aerial predators of reptilian creatures with an insect-like appearance. However, they stumble into a den of a Matakajak, which forces Reg to use the incinerator to kill it. Unfortunately, this attracts the attention of the Crimson Splitjaw previously wounded by the incinerator. After narrowly escaping, Reg falls unconscious for 2 hours, leaving Riko to fend for herself. As a hungry Riko drags Reg along, she is lured in and swallowed by an Amakagame, a bulbous creature, having to cut her way out of its stomach using a dagger. Reg awakens just as the Crimson Splitjaw returns, and he uses the Blaze Reap to chase it off. After setting up camp in the cavern, Riko and Reg can now see the 4th layer, the Goblets of Giants. They are soon confronted by an orb piercer, a large porcupine-like animal. After Riko reveals that the orb piercer's quills can penetrate steel and are laced with poison, they try to escape. However, the orb piercer predicts their movements and halts them, knocking the Blaze Reap out of their grasp. The orb piercer even uses its quills to penetrate through a relic called the Scaled Umbrella, breaking Reg's defense. And one quill penetrates Riko's left hand, injecting lethal poison into her body. This forces Reg to escape with Riko by ascending, though she begins to bleed from every orifice, the curse of the 4th layer. She urges him to sever her left arm to prevent the poison from going further, to which he hesitantly complies. Riko stops breathing midway through the process, causing Reg to fall into despair. Suddenly, a mysterious rabbit-like being appears and tells Reg to remain calm, guiding him to perform cardiopulmonary resuscitation and getting Riko to breathe again. Riko and Reg then retreat to the hideout of the being, whose name is Nanachi. In the hideout, Nanachi begins patching up Riko's swollen left hand. Nanachi admits to watching and listening to Reg until Riko was badly injured ever since they both entered the Goblets of Giants. Reg is then introduced to Mitty, a misshapen cat-like creature living with Nanachi, who reveals that both are hollows, young cave raiders who have lost their humanity due to the curse of the 6th curse layer from the strains of Ascension. However, Nanachi exhibits proof of surviving and retaining a semblance of humanity. Shortly afterward, Nanachi sends Reg off to fetch ingredients to heal Riko and make Nanachi's dinner. Nanachi then sends Reg to clean Riko's clothes at a riverbank behind Nanachi's hideout, stained with blood and urine. Reg walks among the Eternal Fortunes, which are perennial plants that grow fast, and a memory resurfaces of him standing by a gravestone with the Blaze Reap in the ground. While Riko is left alone, Mitty begins to eye her. Mitty has apparently become emotionally attached to her, but Nanachi assures Reg that Mitty will not harm Riko. In Orth, Kiwi falls ill with a mysterious plague known as the birthday-death disease, rumored to affect citizens on their birthdays. Jiruo takes Kiwi to the Caravan Fleet, a boat anchored in the bay surrounding the abyss, for medical treatment. When Kiwi's symptoms suddenly disappear, pharmacist Mio muses that it reminded her of the bizarre curse of the abyss. Back in the abyss, after dinner, Nanachi uses a relic called a fog weave, a thin piece of cloth, to demonstrate the true nature of the curse of the abyss and how it works. During a training session with Nanachi and the Goblets of Giants, Reg comes across a Black Whistle cave raider being attacked by the orb piercer. But, because of Nanachi's instructions, he can chase off the orb piercer with the incinerator. He then asks the Black Whistle to tell Jiruo that Reg and Riko are continuing their adventure. When Reg returns, Nanachi surprisingly requests him to kill Mitty to end Mitty's suffering. Nanachi reveals that they were orphans brought to the abyss by the White Whistle Bondrwood, as subjects for his cruel experiments, in a facility at the bottom of the 5th layer named Ido Front. Unaware of Bondrwood's intentions, Nanachi and Mitty were sent together into the miniature Garden of Dawn of the 6th layer, named Capital of the Unreturned. They are afflicted by the curse upon their ascension, leading to their current appearances, making Mitty immortal and Nanachi able to see the curse. After Bondrwood attempted to kill Mitty several times, Nanachi escaped with Mitty but has since been unable to end Mitty's suffering. After hearing Nanachi's story, Reg accedes to Nanaka's request to kill Mitty with his incinerator. After Nanachi bids a final farewell to Mitty, Reg completely annihilates Mitty, with Nanachi wailing in grief shortly after. Riko regains consciousness the next day, having pan-fried demonfish for breakfast with Reg and Nanachi. She recalls being able to communicate with Mitty in her slumber and felt Mitty's soul freed upon Mitty's death. After spending some time at a natural hot spring with Reg and then having the parasitic water shrooms painfully removed from her left hand, Riko asks Nanachi to join the quest to find Liza, to which Nanachi agrees. Before leaving the hideout, Riko, Reg, and Nanachi prepare preserved medicines, sort delving equipment, procure water-repellent materials, rehabilitate the arm, construct support, and complete a new backpack. Meanwhile, their letter sent through a mail balloon is eventually received by Nat and Shiggy on the surface. It is revealed that, at Ido Front, Bondrewd had been surveilling Mitty and Nanachi through their life signatures. The first season of this anime has ended. What is the story of Riko, Reg, and Nanachi's journey? Will they be able to reach the bottom of the abyss and find Riko's mother? Look forward to the second season, which will be released this year. The moral that can be learned from this anime is, never to give up on anything you believe in with all your heart, because it will lead you to get what you really want in this life.